What's going on, everybody? C4 here. Welcome back to the channel. This is a video I've been sitting on for a very long time. I've had these notes already all prepared to go for like 2 weeks now. And now that we're getting down to crunch time for Christmas, I'm just not going to be able to edit it the way that I want it to. I want it to have slides and all this stuff. That would just pretty much take like a day worth of editing. And right now I can't burn a day for an opinion video because I'm trying to get this crunch down to Christmas time. So you guys have a lot of content over the Christmas break and I don't have to be working on Christmas Eve, Christmas Day, Boxing Day here in Canada, and I can spend it with my family not worrying about like, oh shit, I gotta go record. So that being said, I trust that you guys don't need the pictures. You guys can focus, your smart group, and you guys will find out why in today's video. I have been saying Eagles need to get rid of Howie Roseman. Howie Roseman should be the first one gone. If someone is gonna be gone out of Howie Roseman, Doug Pederson, and Carson Wentz. And there's not been a lot of blowback, not a lot of pushback from people in the comments being like, why would you want to get rid of Howie and all this stuff? A lot of people, especially in the Eagles fan base, are kind of sick and tired of it. But if you're on the fence, if you are an outsider looking in that want to, up your knowledge on just all the issues that are going on with Philadelphia, hopefully I can make my case today that Howie Roseman should have, be on the thinnest of ices. But I do think at the end, kind of give you the summary before I even get into the meat and potatoes of the video, I don't think Howie Roseman is going to get fired. He's so buddy-buddy with Philadelphia Eagles owner Jeffrey Lurie that I think the best case scenario is we get a promotion for Howie Roseman and just make him like, make him like the team friggin' vice president or something like that. Like something huge, but get him out of talent evaluation. Because what you're going to see as we go through this is Howie Roseman's talent evaluation is very poor. His top-end talent evaluation is very poor. His salary capability, that we've called him a wizard forever, is good, but it's not very difficult. It's not like a lot of people, myself included, have been like, Howie's an absolute cap wizard. Howie's really making all these trades over the last couple of years since the Super Bowl. This whole video is going to be post-Super Bowl till now. And it's like one of those things like, yeah, Howie Roseman is a strong numbers guy, but at the end of the day, he's just glorifying kicking the can down the road. And Philadelphia, in the next year or so, is going to feel the brunt of Howie Roseman's cap wizardry. And it's going to be not ideal for a team that needs to get better very, very quickly and has a lot of old talent that's not worth what their contract is, thanks to Howie, that doesn't have the young talent coming in. Like, that's how the team is kind of built. Like, we're going to get to it, but like in Philadelphia, when you kick the can down the road, a lot of teams do it in the NFL. I remember Dallas had that period a couple years ago where like their cap was screwed because all they did was kick the can down the road. But kick the can down the road kind of works in two ways. It works if your old players retain their value. And when you look at Philadelphia, generally speaking, Kelsey, he's retained his value. Lane Johnson has retained his value. Brandon Brooks, when healthy, like all those guys when healthy, they're still top of their position. Even though they're getting paid a premium and Howie Roseman has been adjusting their contract and shuffling, as long as they stay healthy, those aren't bad deals. They keep on pushing back a little bit. Same with Fletcher Cox, even though, very expensive for Fletcher Cox. He's done well. Brandon Graham has done well. Generally speaking, when you kick the can down the road, you need these old players. You got to believe that these old players are still going to play at a high level. And generally for Philadelphia, it's been true. Really, outside of Zach Ertz this season, Jason Peters, that's probably about it. The old contracts that we've been restructuring have worked out well in Philadelphia's favor. But it kind of works hand in hand when you kick the can down the road. You have to be able to replenish with young, cheap talent that is good players. And that is simply not happening for Philadelphia. We have no young, exciting players on this team. We have some guys that could be intriguing. Josh Sweat, Miles Sanders, Jordan Mailata, Dallas Goedert, I guess. Fringe, Dallas Goedert. That's not nearly enough. You need, and even those four guys, maybe Miles Sanders is getting in that, like, oh my God, he could be elite. He could be something like a superstar. But we don't have any superstar talent. Like, there was a point in time, I was making this argument in 2018. It's like, Philly has no good, exciting young players. Carson Wentz was supposed to be that guy, kind of, but like you look around the league, there's teams that have 2-3 superstars, and a lot of the good teams, those superstars are like 25 or under. Philadelphia absolutely does not have any of that. So when you're kicking the can down the road, and you have expensive players, and you're not filling that roster with great draft picks, you're going to be where Philadelphia is today, which is like, okay, we don't have a lot of good young talent. I don't know how we're going to survive this salary cap implications, and here we're at it. Who is the man to blame for all that? It's Howie Roseman. So starting in 2018, here are all the moves Howie Roseman has done, and we're going to go year by year. We're going to look at 2018 as a whole picture in hindsight. Hindsight is, you can't sound smart. I'm not going to sound smart and smug looking at something in hindsight, because some of these moves I thought at the time were good, but if we're properly and fairly evaluating Howie Roseman, hindsight's kind of the way you need to do it, because that is your retrospect. That is what you've actually done now that things have been able to play out. And if you looked at a lot of general managers in hindsight, they probably wouldn't look favorable as well. But I think Howie's been extra trash, and that is what the big problem is for Philadelphia, and why I think he needs to get out of player evaluation. So in 2018, we started things off by signing Nigel Bradham to a 5-year, $40 million contract extension. Now, pre-Super Bowl, Nigel Bradham was like the best linebacker we had since DeMeco Ryans. He might have been like the most talented linebacker we've had in a very, very long time. So giving him that contract extension at the time wasn't bad, but unfortunately, he was not good. He was bang on average at best ever since he got that contract. That's like an F contract handed up from the Philadelphia Eagles. Very expensive for a position we don't value. I think that contract there to Nigel Bradham has kind of manifested itself into the continuing ignoring of the linebacking spot, because they're like, oh shit, remember the last time we actually paid a linebacker? It did not work out well. So they're kind of like, they're scared. They're skittish when it comes to the linebacker position. And right now, it is incredibly weak for the Philadelphia Eagles. We have Alex Singleton, who looks like a solid complementary linebacker. TJ Edwards looks like a solid depth linebacker, but we don't have a legit linebacker that can match up in coverage against running backs and tight ends. We have guys that can kind of play early downs as a run stuffer, and those, if you can draft properly, grow on trees in day 3 in the NFL draft. So Nigel Bradham was a bad contract. We traded Torrey Smith to Carolina for Daryl Worley. I want to be fair, because Torrey probably wasn't going to be on the team, but you look back at that 2018 season, Torrey Smith would have been the deep threat that Philadelphia Eagles needed. Daryl Worley didn't even play a snap for the Philadelphia Eagles, got a DUI, ended up getting cut. We signed Mike Wallace on a 1-year deal. I don't even think he played a game. We released Michael Kendricks. We traded a 3rd-round pick to Detroit for Golden Tate. We let Doug Pederson hire Mike Groh as his offensive coordinator, and Howie Roseman could have been like, nope, that guy's not good enough. Need to look outside the building. But to be fair, on this one, I'm not going to be overly critical, because it was last second, because Frank Reich got the head coaching job from Indy. You look at the free agents, Patrick Robertson, Bo Allen, Trey Burton went to free agency. It is what it was. We didn't have a whole lot of salary cap. It was kind of expected that we were going to lose guys. But in retrospect, given the money that we did to Nigel Bradham, I think Philly might have been better if we kept Patrick Robinson for another year, because Patrick Robinson was a very, very good slot corner for us. He was very important to that Super Bowl winning team. So a lot of negatives. Everything from a personnel decision for Howie Roseman in that 2018 offseason was bad. The one strong move was he traded a 5th-round pick and backup wide receiver Marcus Johnson to the Seattle Seahawks for a 7th-round pick and Michael Bennett. And in 2018, Michael Bennett was the debatably Philadelphia's best defender. That was a good trade, but how much value do we want to give that? Because Michael Bennett was on the trade block. He wanted out of Seattle. Seattle wanted to get done with him. That's why we were able to get him for really a 5th-round pick. But how he did, credit to him, pulled the strings, made that move, and Bennett was our best defensive player in 2018. So generally speaking, free agency moves was not particularly good. Then you go into the draft, where it started, where I think we got finessed personally by the Baltimore Ravens. Ravens wanted to trade up to get Lamar Jackson in the 1st round, as well as getting that additional 5th-year option, which is very, very valuable to a franchise quarterback. And Philly traded 32 and a 4th-round pick to get 2 2s and a 4 from Baltimore. I would argue we should have got more value. Knowing that they wanted a quarterback, that they got Lamar Jackson, I think we should have been like, hey, you have to overpay. We're not making this trade for fair value. And I think at the end of the day, because Baltimore is a tremendously ran football team with a great front office, we got hosed a little bit. But you look at that draft, it was probably, and almost, I'm not even going to say probably, it was easily the best draft Howie Roseman has had, maybe ever, since he's been here. We got Dallas Goedert in the 2nd round, looks like a legit tight end. We traded that 3rd-round pick for Ronald Darby from the Buffalo Bills. Ultimately, Darby was pretty trash. He had like 5 good games for Philly, so that was a bad assessment, bad value. 4th round, we got Avonte Maddox. He's a solid player. 5th round, second, 4th round pick, we got Josh Sweat, who's having a little bit of a breakout. I gave that a B+ grade. We got Matt Pryor in the 6th. In the 7th round, we got Jordan Mailata, who now looks like a franchise left tackle. Like, that's an A. Generally, the draft was very good. UDFAs, we got Josh Adams at running back. He was our leading rusher that year. Ryan Neal, Chandon Sullivan, Bruce Hector, a lot of these guys are still kicking around in the NFL. It was a strong UDFA. And that's where Howie usually excels at, is getting late round UDFA flyers. Jordan Mailata, Josh Adams, all these guys. It's because he has this smartest guy in the room mentality. And that comes back to bite you in the ass when it's first, second, third round. When it's the picks you have to hit on. When you're the smartest guy, you're not taking the obvious picks. You're going with guys like, oh, well, aren't you guys going to look stupid when Philadelphia drafts this guy in the first round and stuff like that? Versus when you're a little bit later, those picks kind of make a little bit more sense to go try to be like a little bit off the cuff, a little bit off the board. So how he struggled early, he's done well late on, and that's kind of, it's a trade-off for sure. I definitely don't think it's a good trade-off, but it's certainly something that we have to give him credit for. I don't want this just to be unnecessarily just hating on Howie Roseman. He could draft well late, and that Mailata pick was outstanding, simply outstanding. But overall, you look at 2018 with the bad moves in free agency, the Nigel Bradham contract, Torrey Smith gone, Mike whiffing on Mike Wallace, whiffing on Golden Tate. I'm giving C. Howie Roseman's got an overall of a C grade in 2018. Wasn't bad, wasn't good, but here's where we're starting to get a little bit worried. It's like, all right, we won the Super Bowl, and then all the moves Howie Roseman made post-Super Bowl in his first offseason. The draft was some optimism to the draft, but the free agency moves were a little bit crap. So now we're moving into 2019, and 2019 was absolutely terrible for Howie Roseman. He had one redeeming move that happened that entire year, and the rest was goddamn awful. In 2019, so the best move that we started with was letting Nick Foles hit free agency. Nick Foles and Golden Tate, we got comp picks back for. So that was kind of smart. He let Jordan Hicks hit free agency. Again, we're looking back in hindsight. Imagine paying Nigel Bradham when we could have just saved that money and paid it to Jordan Hicks. Now, at the time, Jordan Hicks was injury prone. He got paid a pretty substantial offer from the Arizona Cardinals. At the time, I was like, yeah, I don't think Philly was going to match that. But in hindsight, it's like, well, we had that money that we gave to Nigel Bradham. We could have gave that to Jordan Hicks. So that ultimately, pie on the face of Howie Roseman. We re-signed Jay, Nate Sudfeld, Ronald Darby to $8.5 million. He is not a good corner, was not a good corner, was burnt toast more often than not. That was a bad contract. We signed Malik Jackson to a 3-year, $30 million. Still, right now, absolutely not getting any return on that investment. I don't even think he has a sack as a member of the Philadelphia Eagles. LJ Fort, 3-year, $5.5 million. You know, it's one of those things where he just couldn't get playing time on our defense. Ultimately, we let him get cut, and now he plays significant snaps on the Baltimore Ravens and has been solid. So why didn't we get that? He also signed Andrew Sendejo and Zach Brown. Yeah, again, back-to-back swing and misses in free agency for Howie Roseman. We traded a 6th-round pick for Deshaun Jackson. He's played like 3 games since we had bad trade from Howie Roseman. We traded Michael Bennett to England for a 5th-round pick. That wasn't bad because Michael Bennett wanted to get more money. We weren't going to get it. A 6th-round pick to Chicago for Jordan Howard. That was actually a solid move. We traded a 7th-round pick for Hassan Ridgeway. Traded a Jonathan Cyprian and a 7th-round pick to Atlanta for Duke Riley and a 6th. Again, just like, you know, at the best, horizontal moves. We're not really gaining or winning. The Jordan Howard one was solid, but every other move was like, okay. The biggest and worst decision we made in 2019 was we let Joe Douglas leave to become the New York Jets general manager. And why did that happen? Because Howie Roseman would not give Joe Douglas the GM title here in Philadelphia. GM title is, like, there's no GM. We do not have a general manager. That is not an official position for Philadelphia. Just make the job and keep Joe Douglas. Because you saw in 1 year what Joe Douglas was able to do with the Jets. Get really, really good value for Jamal Adams. I thought that draft last year was very good. And if he could find a way to get rid of Adam Gase, things are going to be looking pretty. I don't know if they're going to get that first pick now with Trevor Lawrence, but Joe Douglas looks to be hitting the ground running with the Jets. And you can only imagine if he was still in this building, having complete control over the draft board where this team was at. So because Howie Roseman, I don't know if it's like PTSD from everything that happened with him and Chip Kelly. I don't know why he was so hesitant to give this guy a GM spot. Well, we ended up getting Andrew Barry to come in as like not a GM, but the big top assistant to Howie Roseman, which ended up being solid. And we'll talk to that in what happened in 2020. But losing Joe Douglas to the Jets as a general manager because, I mean, I don't know if it's official. I'm just going to make an assumption that they just would not give him the GM title here in Philadelphia. That's very, very stubborn. That's ignorant. And that is very, very poor management from Howie Roseman. You need to be able to understand your strengths and weaknesses. And Joe Douglas very much was very good at the weakness of Howie Roseman. You keep that team together, and there's just something that he came gun shy about giving him the general manager job, and here we are. So the offseason in 2019 was bad. Very, very bad. Only good thing that came out of it was we got a really, really good comp pick for the Jaguars, overpaying for Nick Foles. So you look at the 2019 draft, we got Andre Dillard in the first round, Miles Sanders in the second round, J.J. Arcega-Whiteside in the second round over DK Metcalf, Sharif Miller in the fourth round, Clayton Thorson in the fifth round. Like, that is a failure of a draft. Overall, I gave the 2019 draft an F. Dillard was a bad pick, as it stands right now, because how many games has he played for us? A first-round pick at tackle, and he's played, 4 games? Not good enough. Miles Sanders was a great pick. JJ, F. Thorson, a fifth-round pick, F. He didn't even make the team's roster, and Gardner Minshew went after him. Sharif Miller, D-. I think he's on the practice squad right now. He's bounced around a couple other teams. It's not good enough. You look at the UDFAs, they weren't bad, I guess. TJ Edwards, Nate Herbig, they've played some solid stats. So again, it's Howie Roseman being able to be the smartest guy in the room when that's beneficial to the team later in the rounds, getting guys as UDFAs. But when it actually matters, Andre Dillard, JJ Arcega-Whiteside, it's bad, man. Overall, 2019 was a D. An absolute dud for the Philadelphia Eagles in Howie Roseman. So a C in 2018. He follows that up. Like, can he get a bounce back year? Are we going to look like we're going to get right back into the Super Bowl? No. He fails this team at every single level in 2019. So then we go to 2020. You probably don't need a whole lot of refresher, especially if you're an Eagle fan. You're well aware of all the moves. But in case you need that, we let Nelson Aguilar, Ron Darby, Timmy Jernigan, Jordan Howard, and Big V hit free agency. Overall, those are all moves that need to happen. We re-signed Corey Clement, Vinnie Curry, Josh McCown, Nate Sudfeld, Hassan Ridgeway, Rodney McLeod, Jalen Mills, and Jason Peters. Out of all those deals, Rodney McLeod's probably the only guy that's looked good that came back to this team. So again, failure at that level in free agency. We signed Javon Hargrave to a 3-year, $39 million deal. While he started out pretty slow, that now looks kind of beneficial, but this contract always was going to look weird because you just gave out big money a year ago to Malik Jackson. And no fault of his own, Malik Jackson was all hurt 2019. Now he's back healthy in 2020. Yet again, you double dip at defensive tackle. Going forward, again, this is all in hindsight. That's pretty good because we're going to let Malik Jackson go, and hopefully we keep on to Fletcher Cox and him and Hargrave. That's really good defensive tackle. And Hargrave, like I said, has been very, very good over the last couple of weeks. You look at the rest of the free agents, Tavis Brown retired, Will Parks ended up getting cut, and Nikel Roby-Coleman has generally been a liability in the secondary, even when we've been playing him in position as a slot corner. So, again, more misses than hits when it comes to just managing free agency and trying to improve this team with a limited amount of salary cap space. We released Nigel Bradham and Malcolm Jenkins. Bradham was good to get off the books. Malcolm Jenkins, probably would like to have him here this year. He ended up going to the Saints. He's been very good for the New Orleans Saints. And our safety tandems has not been hot shit. Rodney McLeod has been solid, but he didn't replace Malcolm Jenkins. You look at who's tried to replace Malcolm Jenkins. Will Parks got cut, and Jalen Mills looks out of depth. Now, there could be some merit to Jalen Mills, just the whole COVID offseason and Jalen Mills switching positions and not having enough time, but still, he hasn't been good enough. So, and now we have a lot of Marcus Epps, and it's just, in hindsight, this would be a much better team, and we probably had enough money to afford bringing back Malcolm Jenkins. There was just something about, value and stuff, and Malcolm Jenkins does not seem very happy with Howie Roseman. A long list of players who are not happy with, Elijah Skandrick, for whatever it is, he's a meme. He was like, Howie Roseman's a snake. Will Parks, shots fired at Howie Roseman. Malcolm Jenkins not been Howie. So maybe there's some validity to just Howie Roseman is an asshole. And he's not a guy that you want to play for. I don't know. We traded a third and a fifth to Detroit for Darius Slay in this 2020 offseason. Now, I want to give credit where credit's due. Darius Slay, outside of the DK Metcalf and Devontae Adams games, has been a top 5 player on this Philadelphia Eagles defense. But how much credit do you want to really give to Howie Roseman for making this deal, understanding that Darius Slay absolutely was not returning to Detroit? This is a guy that was primed for a move. It wasn't like Philly came out of nowhere, knocked on Detroit's door, and came up with a once-in-a-lifetime deal. This was pretty predictable, but we're in the business of looking at hindsight. That was a good trade for the Philadelphia Eagles. We traded a 6 to San Francisco for a 6 in Marcus Goodwin. Didn't know he wasn't going to play the year because of COVID, but still, it was a move made by the Philadelphia Eagles that did not pan out whatsoever because he's yet to play a snap and probably won't ever play a snap for Philadelphia. So overall, 2020 offseason, from a free agency standpoint, before the draft, another failure for the Philadelphia Eagles. The 2020 draft, let's see, in the first round, we got Jalen Reagor. When you've seen what Justin Jefferson and Brandon Ayuk T. Higgins have done as players that have gone after Jalen Reagor, it's looking like another miss. And then you throw in the fact that like how much validity was there that Philadelphia could trade up with Atlanta to go in front of Dallas to get CeeDee Lamb, who's been sensational for the Cowboys. It just makes that pick 21 sting that much more. We got Jalen Hurts in the second round. Now, this is a tough one to grade because it's an F pick for where the Philadelphia Eagles were at that point in time. Hindsight, as of right now, we have the Saints game and the Cardinals game under our belt. I had it as a D+, but I literally wrote these notes before Jalen Hurts ever played. I think I'd bump it up to a C+ right now. Like it's one of those things. There's no way Howie Roseman wins with this pick because if Jalen Hurts is the guy, for Philadelphia going forward, then Howie Roseman gets like, oh, well, I saw this. I got Jalen Hurts the second round. Give me my applause. Well, you also just gave Carson Wentz $100 million. So there's no way that Howie Roseman makes out looking smart on this decision because, either you look smart for getting Jalen Hurts and you look dumb for paying Carson Wentz, or you look smart because Wentz can, this offseason retool and come back as 2017 Wentz, and then you spend a second round pick on Jalen Hurts. How does that help Carson Wentz going forward? So there's no wins. You look at the rest. Davion Taylor in the third round doesn't play. Kavon Wallace can't get on the field. And then you start looking at where are some of the value picks. We got Jack Driscoll in the fourth round. He's looked solid. Sean Bradley's looked okay. Quez Watkins in the sixth rounds looked okay. For the UDFAs, we got Michael Jacquet. So it's, again, Howie Roseman, when he's trying to be the smartest guy in the room, in the first round with Jalen Reagor, not going with the obvious pick in Justin Jefferson, he ends up, and same with Jalen Hurts, he ends up hurting this team. But when there's like a lot less pressure on the draft picks, he can excel a little bit. So you look at the 2020 draft in hindsight, it's way too early to fully give a grade on the 2020 draft for Philadelphia, but it generally doesn't look very good. And then you also look at the fact, other moves, Andrew Berry, the man that kind of came in to replace Joe Douglas, he's now the general manager of the Cleveland Browns, and they're going to the playoffs for the first time in like 20 years. He agrees to have no offensive coordinator this year. Doug Pederson's like, I don't want an OC. Howie Roseman went, okay, Doug, let's go. Again, failures at every single level. 2020, I give him a C- overall grade. So for the 3 years post-Super Bowl, Howie Roseman, in my opinion, got a C grade in 2018, a D grade in 2019, and a C- in 2020. Overall, that is a C- for the last 3 years at Super Bowl. And is that good enough? That is mediocrity at its worst for Philadelphia. And I think more so than what we've seen in Doug Pederson, because Doug Pederson has been able to find a way to get a very bad roster into the playoffs. Carson Wentz, 2017 was good, but we're looking post-2018 coming off an injury. Our expectations were somewhat reasonable. 2019 broke Eagles records with practice squad players at wide receivers because of Howie Roseman. And then in 2020, we saw everything as just, it's an off year. And I do think it is kind of ridiculous to say that in 2 games, Jalen Hurts is our franchise quarterback, and then completely writing off everything Carson Wentz has done because of one really, really bad year in 2020. Both those are completely ridiculous extremes to have right now for the Philadelphia Eagles, but I still think if someone has to fall and be the fall guy for all the Eagles' failures in 2020, no more. So should Howie Roseman be the guy that it's not good enough, man. It's simply not good enough. Like, you can count on one hand since the Super Bowl the Michael Bennett trade, Josh Sweat, Jordan Mailata, Miles Sanders, Darius Slay, 5 good moves in 3 years, and we got Nigel Bradham contract, Golden Tate trade, Malik Jackson contract, Andre Dillard in the first round, JJ over DK, releasing Malcolm Jenkins, drafting Jalen Reagor in the first round, Joe Douglas and Andrew Berry, because Howie Roseman has something about not having a general manager. 9 Fs. These are terrible decisions. These are fireable offenses if you didn't have that Super Bowl on your resume. So I just think when all is said and done, Howie Roseman needs to be the guy that kind of falls on all this. And that's at least why I've been saying when it comes to what's going on with Philadelphia, who needs to go, I've been putting Howie Roseman at the top of my list. So let me know what you guys think about it in the comment section below. If you were Jeffrey Lurie, the owner of the Philadelphia Eagles, what would be your move? Would you get rid of Doug? Would you get rid of Howie? Would you try to trade Wentz? Would you try to trade Hurts? Or anything in between? Let me know in the comment section below. But this does it for this Eagles video. We actually have another video dropping tonight. A legendary rebuild. Make sure you stay tuned for that. But thank you guys for watching. And if there's any other Eagle topics or anything like that you want me to talk about, let me know in the comment section below, because I'm always on board to make some Eagles content. 25 minutes in, no pictures, no editing, just a raw and uncut rant. I hope you enjoyed it. I'll see you guys back on the next one. Peace out. And there's a little bit of support for Carson Wentz, even though Jalen Hurts is my quarterback in 2020.